Hi everyone, glad you could be with me for another one of my shows. I have been away for a week celebrating the birth of a new grandchild. So it's been a terrific period to be away with my son and daughter in law, and particularly to meet up with Penelope, who's only at this stage just a week old. So I have been a bit absent from the scene, but have now returned in order to present to you some of the information that I think is important that gets often overlooked generally and certainly doesn't get the commentary that it is needed. Now, I want to talk again about the voice to some extent today because I made a video a week ago when I noticed that Peter Credlin from Sky News presented an item which was stating that the voice was actually a 26-page document, not the one-page document that Albanese and others have referred to. In fact, I was one of the first persons to identify this, and it was really interesting to note, or the first person that I know of anyway, but it was interesting to note that there were others who eventually picked up on this story, and there's been a plethora of information provided that discounts the Credlin claim. I noticed that in the initial Credlin item on Sky News that she had highlighted the name of the particular document that she was referring to at the top of one of the shots that they had when she was making her presentation. And I was able to highlight that, and also I did my due diligence and I searched for information concerning the voice and the Uluru Statement in particular. And I was able, to my delight, discover that there was a stack of information that was available in regard to the whole process from 2015 or 16 onwards in relation to all the work that had been done around formulating the Uluru Statement of the Heart. And that there were many governments, well, two governments anyway, that have been involved in that particular process. And there were also many ministers from the left, the right wing of Parliament, of government, who were also participating in that process. So it has been a bipartisan process for all of this time, except now that we find that a referendum is being proposed for October this year, and that we have the wording for the referendum that's being proposed available to us, that suddenly the right wing of politics have taken exception to this whole notion. And I'm fascinated by this because, there are two things I think that happen here. Number one, either if you want to vote no, you're either simply misinformed or you are racist. You can't fit in any other category. There are these two categories. And I know of some people who are suggesting to me that they're going to vote no. I don't think they're racist. I just think that they're misinformed, don't understand what's going on. They listen to all the other white matter that happens out there, the white noise rather, in relation to what others are saying, and not really looking at the whole issue per se. So there was an article in the ABC which was published because of this issue with regard to Credlin and some of the things that she was saying that were rather distressing. And so I took a look at this article, and I'll just going to read some of it to you just to help you to understand what are the actual realities. So these fact checkers are definitely independent. So this isn't, if there were some statements that were false from the Yes campaign, then they would certainly be highlighted here as well, I'm quite sure. But in particular, in relation to the statement by Credlin, which is just totally wrong, and it forms a argument that the Yes campaign, the No campaign want to present in relation to the voice. So it's part of this sense of confusion. So if we can confuse the public as best as we can, which they're very good at doing, I hasten to add, then eventually we're going to win over all those people who now are questioning what this is really all about and will therefore vote no, because people will not vote for something that they can't believe in. So if you believe in the No campaign, it's usually based on those two things: misinformation or you're a racist. So if you're watching this and you're thinking, well, which one of those categories I'm voting no, think about which one of those categories you're involved in. If you're a racist, I'll dismiss you straight away. Not worth having a conversation with you. You're a piece of shit, so I'm not going to deal with you. But if you fit in that misinformation part, then I suggest you look at the information that you're gathering. Ask yourself, where's that information coming from? What is their agenda? Are they racists? Or do they have another political agenda entirely? Which may be to try and find an argument which is going to defeat Albanese at the polls. So that's the other argument, I guess, is, well, this is all about politics at the end of the day. But it isn't. And this is what you and I need to be mindful of. This is about recognising Indigenous people. And I've said this 1,000 times, you've probably heard it 1,000 times, but it is simply that simple. So I'm going to go to this article. So, 2-minute rate, 26-page detail. Who's correct on the Uluru Statement for the Heart? This is the question. Is it a one-page document, or is it this 26-page document that Cruella Credlin is talking about? So a word of words over the Uluru Statement from the Heart spilled over into Parliament this week, that was last week, with Prime Minister Anthony Albanese labelling the supposed revelation of a 26-page version of the statement as a conspiracy in search of a theory. And I couldn't agree more with him than that. His comments came after Sky News host Peter Credlin. This is the one I reported on a week ago when this actually did happen. Late last week, to have exposed the full Uluru Statement from the Heart, describing previous comments made by Mr Albanese about the length of the document as a lie. Now, the primary issue around all of this is simply that she came upon a document which is one of many. There's hundreds and hundreds of pages of document. In fact, my experience was that when I did the research through this and had a look at so just type in Uluru Statement, you come up with a couple of websites, each of which has heaps and heaps of documents and videos of conferences and discussions around all of this from all of the participants. And you will be able to work out for yourself which side of this you want to go. And look, fair enough. If at the end of the day you say, well, I've looked through all the information and I still don't think the referendum's a good idea for whatever reason, then I'll be happy with that. That's good, because you've at least done your research, you came to a conclusion based on doing that research. You haven't listened to all that white noise that sits around you. You've looked at it. And, you know, the question I often ask myself is also, have I looked beyond my particular bubble and had a look at other stuff? And I do. You know, I regretfully look at Sky News just to see what they're talking about. And sometimes I might even agree with people like Andrew Bolt, which often surprises me as well. And if I agree with him, that's fine. He obviously assists with my values, or what he's saying makes a lot of sense. Rarely, but on occasions, I have done so. And surprised myself, I hasten to add. But in the Uluru Statement, so is it a 26-page document? Well, actually, the reality is that it isn't. So waiting the debate in the hours after Tuesday's question time, Shadow Minister for Indigenous Australians and prominent No campaigner Jacinta Nampijinpa-Price appeared on Credlin's program and urged Mr Albanese to come clean to Australians about the Uluru Statement. Now, what concerns me most about this is that they must know that the statements they're making in relation to all of this are wrong. They must know that, because it is clear as anything that the Uluru Statement is this one page, right? And that the other documents that they've cited were not titled Uluru Statements. They are reports made by the committee or the gathering of Indigenous people at Uluru. So we need to see this in context, right? So they know that these statements that they're making are wrong. And yet they're still prepared to sell this. So we need to ask ourselves also, what does this mean in relation to how they're projecting this stuff if they know that the statements that they're making are incorrect? It actually tells us that they don't have any solid arguments of their own to combat the Yes campaign, that they're void of any reasonable statement, any reasonable, logical, progressive statement in relation to why the voice, the referendum, should be voted down. They don't know that. And so they use this particular form of argument. It appears as though Mr Albanese has misled, this is her talking, Parliament in this matter, she said, and if that's the case, it is to correct that for the benefit of all Australians. So, who is correct? Albanese, Uluru Statement, her, Credlin, 26-page document. The document cited by Credlin and Senator Price. Now, I discovered this when I just watched this video, was one of the several published by the NIAA to its FOI disclosure log in March this year, where it has triggered a slew of voice-related misinformation. Now, the other issue around this, which I think we also should focus on, is that Credlin said that she had to go and seek an FOI to get this stuff. That's bullshit. This stuff that she's referring to, or any information that you want in relation to the Uluru Statement or the processes that were used in order to get to this statement, were clearly have been available online through heaps and heaps of reports over many years. So that also is a lie from Credlin. So Professor Davis has in the past referred to an 18-page Uluru Statement many people don't know, while urging people to read that whole document, which we call the Uluru Statement from the Heart. A version, she said, was not often read and was overlooked. Writing in the Australian on Thursday, however, she dismissed allegations that this meant that the Uluru Statement itself was longer than one page. It is only one page. There are all these other statements which came out of the gatherings at Uluru, but there is this one. So they all gathered, they all came together. After many years of discussion, they came up with this one statement. This is not uncommon. We often see where there are gatherings or conferences around a whole host of issues, United Nations issues, NATO, whatever, and then you find that that group of people, whoever they are, will present a statement. Climate change, I think, is probably the best example, and eventually that group of people will come together and they'll produce a statement. So there are heaps and heaps of discussions that take place in and around all of that. All of those discussions are recorded and noted, whatever. They might come out in individual reports. But at the end of the day, none of us want to read a 500, 900-page report on all of the things that were discussed. We just want a statement that comes from this group of people that, in essence, tells us what it is that they want. And that's all this statement is. Nothing more, nothing less. This is alluding to many pieces of information that inform the Uluru Statement or provided context. This is alluding to the many pieces of information that inform the Uluru Statement or provided context to the statement. On X, Professor Davis also rejected claims that the extra pages were kept secret until recently, noting that most, this is what I've been saying, exactly what I've been saying, noting that most have been publicly available for years as they form part of the 2017 final report of the Referendum Council. Read it. It's available. Google it, and you'll find it for yourself. That's the formal report. It's all in there. Nothing is hidden. Don't have to FOI it. It's available on the internet, and it's been, as she says, it's been there for several years. Within the report is a history of Indigenous Australians titled Our Story, the contents of which form 6 pages of the 26-page NIA document. Our story also features prominently in the official Uluru Statement from the Heart website, where it has been available since at least May 2020. And this is where Credlin got her stuff from, even though she said she had to FOI it. She lied. She lied to you. So why should we trust her? Well, I don't know. So it goes on to say, It was a one-page statement. It should not be confused with the records of discussions, and this is what I've been saying, is that we should not, it is a one-page statement and should not be confused with records of discussions which were never adopted by delegates at the convention. So this is where they raised issues that Mayo talked about in terms of sovereignty and taking over a land and all that other sort of stuff. They are ideas that were discussed, and fair enough, because there's some of us that agree this compensation should be made. But they are not the key issue, and that is not what the Uluru Statement is necessarily about. So it goes on to say, there's no campaign using, it's just another issue. Beyond our story sections, most of the remainder of the 26 pages are drawn from a set of guiding principles and reforms, priorities which are published in the Referendum Council report and so on. So that's where they get I didn't highlight that, but that's where they get their additional information from. So let me know what you think of all of that, and subscribe, obviously, to my YouTube channel in order to get further information later on as we progress throughout this week. Now that I'm back from my so-called leave, I'll be posting a lot more about this and a whole host of other political issues. So thanks for being with me, everybody. Take care, look after yourselves, and be safe.